Have you ever stared at yourself in the mirror and thought, why can't I just do the things I say I'm going to do? You make a promise to wake up earlier, to work out, to eat better, to finally stay consistent with your goals. But then, a week later, the alarm clock rings and you hit snooze. You tell yourself you'll try again tomorrow. You promise yourself you'll start fresh next Monday. And deep down, a little voice whispers, maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. But what if I told you that everything you've believed about discipline is incomplete? What if the reason you keep falling off track isn't because you're weak or lazy or destined to fail, but because no one ever showed you the hidden mindset that separates those who quit from those who build unstoppable discipline? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Because if you stay with me until the end of this video, you're going to see discipline in a way you've never seen it before. Not as a punishment, not as willpower, but as something far more powerful, something that could literally rewire the way you think, act, and show up in your life. Imagine this: a young man, barely 20 years old, sitting in a cold, empty apartment. His bills are stacked on the counter. His phone keeps buzzing with notifications of missed payments. He's exhausted from working 2 jobs, yet he's still broke, still drowning, still searching for a way out. Every night, he promises himself he'll change. He'll wake up early, he'll work harder, he'll stop wasting time scrolling on his phone. But every morning, the same cycle repeats. Fatigue, excuses, guilt. That young man, that was me. And if I'm honest with you, I hated myself for it. Because I thought discipline was about being stronger, tougher, more ruthless with myself. I thought I needed to beat myself into submission, to grit my teeth, and just power through. And every time I failed, I felt weaker. Maybe you felt that too. Here's the thing no one told me then. Discipline isn't about punishment. It isn't about chaining yourself to routines you despise. The truth is, discipline is about identity. And until you see that, you'll keep fighting yourself instead of working with yourself. Pause for a moment and ask yourself this question: who do I believe I am? Because your actions will always follow your identity. If deep down, you see yourself as someone who always quits or never follows through, then your brain will look for ways to prove that true. But if you shift that identity, if you begin to see yourself as someone who is capable, reliable, and unstoppable, suddenly, discipline isn't a fight anymore. It becomes natural. That's the hidden mindset behind unstoppable discipline. It's not about forcing yourself to act differently. It's about becoming someone different in your mind first. Now, maybe you're wondering, okay, that sounds inspiring, but how does that actually work? How do I change the way I see myself? And that's exactly where the journey begins. Because right now, your brain is wired to protect you from discomfort. It whispers, stay in bed. You deserve a break. Tomorrow will be easier. And when you listen, it feels good in the moment, but terrible in the long run. Here's the shift. Unstoppable discipline starts when you begin treating every small action as evidence of who you are becoming. It's not about perfection. It's about identity stacking. Every time you wake up at the time you promised, that's a vote for being disciplined. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, that's another vote. And eventually, the votes add up until your identity shifts from someone who quits to someone who follows through. But here's the trap most people fall into. They expect massive results instantly. They go to the gym once, and when they don't see abs the next morning, they quit. They write 2 pages, and when the book isn't finished in a week, they stop. They think discipline should feel rewarding right away. But the truth? The reward of discipline isn't in the immediate result. It's in the identity you are building every single day, brick by brick. Think about it this way. If a sculptor wants to carve a masterpiece, they don't swing the hammer once and expect a statue to appear. They chip away, stroke after stroke, day after day, until one day the shape emerges. That's discipline. It's not glamorous. It's not instant, but it's powerful. And here's where I want to hit you with a question that might sting a little. If you don't change your hidden mindset, if you keep believing that discipline is about willpower alone, where will you be 1 year from now? Still making promises you don't keep? Still hitting snooze? Still frustrated at yourself? I'll tell you what, that doesn't have to be your story. Because the very fact that you're still here, listening to this message, means you already have something most people don't, the hunger to change. That hunger is the seed. And when you water it with the right mindset, it grows into unstoppable discipline. I want to share with you a moment that changed my life forever. It was a freezing morning in December. My alarm rang at 5 a.m. I wanted nothing more than to stay under the covers. But something inside me whispered, if you don't get up now, you're proving yourself right. You're proving that you always quit. That hit me like a punch. I realized every time I hit snooze, I wasn't just wasting a morning, I was casting a vote for the identity of a quitter. And in that moment, I decided I would never again let my comfort define my character. That morning, I dragged myself out of bed, stumbled into the cold air, and started running. Not because I love running, not because I wanted to prove anything to anyone else, but because I wanted to prove something to myself. And that's the real secret. Discipline is less about what you're doing and more about who you're proving yourself to be. Let me pause here and ask you, what small promise have you been breaking to yourself over and over again? Is it waking up earlier? Is it eating healthier? Is it finally starting that project you've been talking about for months? Whatever it is, imagine how your life would change if you simply kept that one promise. Imagine the ripple effect. Imagine the pride. This is where the hidden mindset begins to take root. You stop chasing motivation and you start chasing alignment with your identity. Because motivation fades, but identity is permanent. If you see yourself as disciplined, your actions will follow. And that brings me to something powerful I want you to remember. The most dangerous phrase you can ever tell yourself is, that's just who I am. Because it's not true. Who you are is not fixed. Who you are is who you decide to become every single day by the choices you make. That's why I'm telling you now. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Stop waiting for some magical surge of willpower. Because discipline isn't built in the future. It's built in the now. Every single choice you make is a brushstroke painting the picture of your identity. And the hidden mindset is realizing that discipline isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. The freedom to become the kind of person you actually respect. The freedom to live a life where you trust yourself. The freedom to look in the mirror and finally see someone who doesn't quit. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to keep the promises you make to other people, but how quickly you break the ones you make to yourself? If your boss asks for a report by tomorrow morning, you'll stay up all night if you have to. If a friend asks you to meet them at the gym, you'll drag yourself there even when you're tired. But when it comes to your own goals, your health, your dreams, your self-respect, suddenly, those promises become negotiable. Why is that? It's because most of us value the perception of others more than the perception of ourselves. We fear disappointing other people, but we don't fear disappointing ourselves. And that's the real reason discipline slips through your fingers. Because discipline is born the moment you decide that your own opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. Think about this for a second. How much pain could you avoid if you simply treated your own word with the same weight you treat a promise to someone else? How much further would you be if you showed up for yourself as reliably as you show up for everyone else? The hidden mindset behind unstoppable discipline is that you're the first person you need to impress, the first person you need to respect, the first person you need to stop letting down. Here's a hard truth. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your confidence. You create a version of yourself that doesn't trust your own word. And without self-trust, discipline feels impossible. But every time you follow through, even on the smallest thing, you begin to rebuild that trust. And trust is the foundation of unstoppable discipline. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a young professional who wanted to lose weight, but she kept failing at diets. Every Monday, she'd start fresh, and by Wednesday, she'd give in to cravings. Every time she quit, she'd tell herself, I just don't have discipline. When we talked, I asked her to forget the diet for a moment and focus on one small promise she could keep to herself every day. She chose drinking 1 glass of water before her morning coffee. That's it. Nothing big. Nothing dramatic. Just 1 glass of water. At first, it felt silly, but every morning, when she kept that promise, she started to feel something new, pride. That small action became a symbol, a daily reminder that she could, in fact, trust herself. And once she rebuilt that trust, bigger promises became possible. Months later, she was hitting the gym 3 times a week, sticking to a healthier routine, and finally seeing results. But the breakthrough wasn't in the workouts or the meals. It was in her mindset. She realized discipline is built one small, unbreakable promise at a time. That's the hidden mindset. Discipline is less about intensity and more about integrity. It's not about doing something massive all at once. It's about proving to yourself that your word is law and that your identity is aligned with your actions. Now, I want to ask you, what would happen if you started treating every commitment to yourself as sacred? What would your life look like in 6 months if you never again broke a promise to yourself? I'll tell you what would happen. Your self-respect would skyrocket. Your confidence would become unshakable. And discipline, the thing you thought was impossible, would become automatic. But let's address the elephant in the room, failure. Because no matter how much you want to be disciplined, you will mess up. You will skip a workout. You will eat the cookie. You will hit snooze. And if you're not careful, you'll use those failures as proof that you're not cut out for discipline. Here's the shift. Failure is not the opposite of discipline. Failure is part of discipline. Think about a toddler learning to walk. They fall 100 times, but no one looks at them and says, "Guess you're not meant to be a walker." No, we expect them to fall. And we know that every fall is part of the process. Why should your journey be any different? The hidden mindset behind unstoppable discipline is realizing that failure doesn't define you. Response does. Discipline isn't the absence of failure. Discipline is the decision to rise one more time than you fall. Let me give you another story. There was a man named James who wanted to start a business. He promised himself he'd work on it every night after his day job. For the first week, he did great. But then life got busy. He missed one night, then another. And before long, he stopped altogether. He told himself, "See, I don't have discipline." But when he reframed failure as part of the process, something shifted. Instead of giving up when he missed a night, he forgave himself quickly and got back on track the very next day. Slowly but surely, he built consistency. 2 years later, his business was thriving. Not because he was perfect, but because he refused to let failure be the end of the story. So I'll ask you this. What if the moments you consider your greatest failures are actually the stepping stones to the discipline you've always wanted? What if the difference between people who succeed and people who quit isn't talent or motivation, but simply the way they interpret failure? The hidden mindset says, don't punish yourself for slipping. Use it as proof that you're human, and then recommit. Because discipline isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. And here's something you may not have realized yet. The people you admire most, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the creators, they are more disciplined because they're stronger than you. They're more disciplined because they've built a different relationship with themselves. They see discipline as proof of who they are becoming, not punishment for who they are not. Now, let's get practical for a moment. You might be thinking this all sounds good, but how do I actually apply it in my life? Start here. Pick one promise. Just one. Something so small you cannot fail. Maybe it's drinking that glass of water. Maybe it's reading one page of a book. Maybe it's writing one sentence in your journal. Do it every single day. And when you do, don't focus on the result. Focus on what it means. I'm the kind of person who keeps my promises. That's the seed of unstoppable discipline. And once that seed takes root, it grows. Because success builds on success. Integrity builds on integrity. And little by little, your identity shifts. I want you to imagine yourself 6 months from now. Imagine waking up without snoozing the alarm. Imagine looking in the mirror and knowing, without a doubt, that you can trust yourself. Imagine the ripple effect of that discipline. Better health, stronger relationships, greater success. That version of you is waiting. And the bridge to get there isn't motivation. It isn't luck. It's the hidden mindset of discipline. Here's your hook for this moment. If you don't take this seriously, you're not just wasting time, you're wasting your life. Every broken promise steals a piece of your future. Every time you quit, you're writing a story of regret. But every time you follow through, you're writing a story of pride, growth, and freedom. Which story do you want to live? Let's get honest for a second. How many times have you waited for the perfect moment to finally start? You tell yourself, I'll get disciplined once the kids are back in school, or I'll start when work slows down, or I'll change when January 1st rolls around. And yet, that perfect moment never comes. Life doesn't hand you a window of calm where everything is lined up neatly for discipline to flourish. Life is messy. There are distractions, setbacks, and responsibilities. And if you're waiting for ideal conditions, you'll wait forever. The truth is this: discipline isn't built when life is easy. Discipline is built when life is hard. It's forged in the fire of chaos, not in the calm of perfection. And that's exactly why so many people never develop it. They're waiting for comfort, but discipline is born in discomfort. Think about a blacksmith forging steel. The steel doesn't become strong by sitting on a shelf. It becomes strong in the fire, under pressure, through relentless pounding. Your discipline is the same. It doesn't grow when everything is smooth. It grows when you choose to rise in the middle of difficulty. Here's the hidden mindset shift. Don't run from discomfort. Chase it. Because every time you lean into discomfort, you're training your brain to see discipline not as suffering, but as strength. And the more you do it, the stronger you get. I remember coaching a young man named Daniel who wanted to start a fitness routine. He kept saying, I'll start once I feel ready. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. Finally, I told him the truth. You'll never feel ready. Stop waiting to feel ready and start acting like the person you want to become. He resisted at first, but one morning he decided to wake up early and run. He hated it. His lungs burned, his legs felt like lead, and his mind screamed to quit. But when he finished, something clicked. He realized that the discomfort wasn't a sign to stop. It was proof he was growing. That moment changed everything for him. And I want you to hear me clearly. You don't need to enjoy discomfort to benefit from it. You just need to embrace it as part of the process. Because here's the truth. Comfort is a liar. Comfort whispers, stay safe. Stay the same. Stay in bed. But discipline whispers, step up. Stretch yourself. Become more. Which voice will you listen to? Now, let's talk about something most people misunderstand. Motivation. How often have you heard the advice? You just need to get motivated? Motivation feels great, but it's unreliable. Motivation is like a spark. It burns bright, but quickly fades. Discipline is the firewood that keeps the flame alive long after motivation has disappeared. The hidden mindset is this: don't rely on motivation. Rely on systems. Because systems are what carry you forward when motivation dies. If you wait to feel like it, you'll never build consistency. But if you create systems that make it easier to follow through than to quit, discipline becomes automatic. Here's a practical example. Imagine you want to eat healthier. Motivation might get you to skip dessert once or twice, but eventually cravings win. But if you build a system, like never keeping junk food in your house or prepping healthy meals ahead of time, suddenly discipline isn't about willpower. It's about structure. And structure beats motivation every time. This is why people with unstoppable discipline don't just depend on inner strength. They design their environment to support their goals. They don't leave discipline up to chance. They build guardrails that keep them on track. Let me ask you this. What's one system you could put in place right now that would make your goals easier to reach? Could you set your workout clothes out the night before? Could you block social media apps during work hours? Could you schedule your goals on a calendar like they're non-negotiable meetings? One small system can change everything. But there's something deeper we need to explore here: the relationship between discipline and desire. Most people think discipline means denying yourself what you want. But the hidden mindset reveals the opposite. Discipline is about aligning your short-term actions with your long-term desires. It's not saying no to pleasure. It's saying yes to a greater pleasure. Think about it. Waking up early isn't about punishing yourself. It's about saying yes to more time, more productivity, more self-respect. Saying no to junk food isn't about restriction. It's about saying yes to energy, health, and longevity. Every act of discipline is a trade. You're trading a small comfort now for a greater reward later. And here's the key. When you focus on the reward, discipline feels empowering instead of draining. When you remember that every no is really a yes to something bigger, you stop seeing discipline as deprivation and start seeing it as liberation. Let me bring this home with a story. There was a college athlete named Rachel who struggled with late-night snacking. She knew it was holding her back from peak performance, but every night the cravings hit. Finally, we reframed her mindset. Instead of focusing on what she was giving up, we focused on what she was gaining. Faster recovery, better energy, sharper focus. Every time she said no to the snacks, she reminded herself she was saying yes to becoming the best athlete she could be. And guess what? Her discipline skyrocketed because it was no longer about restriction. It was about alignment with her higher self. So I want you to think right now. What are you really saying yes to when you practice discipline? What's the reward waiting on the other side? Because when you lock into that, discipline stops being a battle and starts being a choice. Now, here's your next hook, and it's going to hit hard. Every act of undisciplined living is stealing from your future. Every time you give in to comfort, you're robbing the stronger, wiser, more successful version of yourself. But every time you choose discipline, you're making a deposit into the bank of your future. Which account are you funding? Regret or reward? That's the mindset shift that separates the dreamers from the doers. And once you get it, once it clicks, you stop fighting discipline and start embracing it as the path to everything you want. Let me tell you something most people don't want to admit. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is not talent, luck, or opportunity. It's discipline. That's it. Talent can get you started. Luck might open a door, but discipline is what keeps you walking through it every single day. Without discipline, talent is wasted, opportunities are missed, and dreams die in silence. Think about every success story you admire. Behind the highlights and the applause, behind the trophies and the headlines, lies a quiet story of discipline. The 5 a.m. mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices no one clapped for. Because here's the truth. Greatness doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows when no one is watching. Let me share a story that proves this. There was once a boy who wanted to be a writer. He wasn't the most talented in his class. In fact, his teachers told him he lacked skill. But every morning before school, he sat down at his desk and wrote. Page after page, year after year. His friends played outside while he wrote. His classmates laughed at him, but he kept writing. That boy grew up to be Stephen King, one of the most successful authors of all time. Not because he was born the best, but because discipline carried him where talent couldn't. And I want you to ask yourself, what's your version of that? What dream of yours could discipline bring to life if you gave it the consistency it deserves? Here's the beauty of discipline. It compounds. At first, the results seem invisible. You work out for a week and nothing changes. You read every morning and no one notices. You wake up early and it feels pointless. But discipline is like planting seeds. You don't see the harvest immediately, but every day you water the soil. Then, one day, without warning, the roots break through. That's when people call it overnight success, not realizing it was years of quiet, disciplined effort that built the foundation. Now here's the hidden mindset. Don't chase immediate results. Chase consistency. Because if you can fall in love with the process, the results will take care of themselves. But let's be real. The road isn't easy. You will fail. You will slip. You will have days where discipline feels impossible. And that's where most people quit, because they think failure means they're not cut out for discipline. But here's the truth. Failure isn't the opposite of discipline. Failure is part of discipline. Every time you fall short and get back up, you're strengthening your discipline muscle. Imagine going to the gym. Do your muscles grow the moment you lift the weight? No. They grow in the recovery after the stress, after the strain, after the resistance. Discipline works the same way. Every failure is resistance training for your soul. It's the weight that builds your inner strength. So if you've stumbled before, if you've tried and failed, congratulations. You're already on the path. You're already proving you're strong enough to grow. The only difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is this. The successful get back up one more time than they fall. Let me give you another story. Thomas Edison is known for inventing the light bulb. But what most people forget is that he failed thousands of times before finding the right solution. Thousands. Imagine if he had quit after 100 failures or 500 or 1,000. The world might still be in the dark. When asked about his failures, Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not talent. That's discipline. Now pause for a second and think, when in your life have you labeled as failure that might actually just be part of your process? What if that setback wasn't proof of weakness, but proof you're still in the fight? Here's the next mindset shift, and it's critical. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. Stop trying to be flawless. Start trying to be relentless. And let me push even deeper. Discipline isn't just about what you do. It's about who you become. Every act of discipline rewires your identity. When you wake up early, you're not just up early. You're becoming the kind of person who values growth over comfort. When you choose to work instead of scroll, you're not just productive. You're becoming the kind of person who takes control of their future. Discipline isn't about habits alone. It's about identity transformation. That's why the hidden mindset is so powerful. People think discipline is about self-denial, but really, it's about self-creation. You are building yourself brick by brick, choice by choice. And the more disciplined you become, the clearer and stronger your identity becomes. Let me leave you with this image. Picture two versions of yourself standing in front of you. One is the person of comfort, the one who always chooses the easy road, who procrastinates, who stays safe. The other is the person of discipline, the one who shows up, who pushes through, who builds. Every choice you make is a vote for one of those versions. Who are you voting for today? This is where unstoppable discipline is born, in the daily choices that cast votes for the future you want. Now, let me ask you something that might sting a little. If you keep living the way you are right now, with your current level of discipline, where will you be in 5 years? Be brutally honest. Will you be closer to your dreams or further away? Because here's the truth. Time is going to pass either way. The only question is, will discipline carry you closer, or will comfort hold you back? And here's the good news. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to make one discipline choice today, then another tomorrow, then another the next day. Because discipline is built one choice at a time. Imagine where you could be if you just kept stacking those choices. Imagine the health, the wealth, the relationships, the confidence. It's all waiting, but only if you choose discipline today. And here's your next curiosity trigger. The most disciplined people in the world aren't superhuman. They aren't born with some magical ability. They've simply learned one powerful mindset that changes everything. And that's exactly what I'm about to reveal in the next part. So here we are. You've walked with me through the struggles, the failures, the quiet victories that discipline brings. You've seen how it shapes identities, how it rewrites destinies, and how it separates those who dream from those who achieve. But now comes the final, hidden mindset that makes discipline unstoppable. It's this: discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. I need you to let that sink in. Because most people see discipline as chains, as restriction, as a life of denial. They think, if I have to be disciplined, I'll miss out, I'll be unhappy, I'll be too rigid. But the reality is the opposite. Discipline is not the bars of a prison. Discipline is the key to unlocking the life you want. Think about it. When you have discipline with your health, you're free from sickness, fatigue, and regret. When you have discipline with your money, you're free from debt, stress, and scarcity. When you have discipline with your time, you're free from distractions, procrastination, and wasted potential. Lack of discipline isn't freedom. It's slavery. Slavery to your impulses, to your laziness, to your excuses. True freedom comes only when you have the discipline to master yourself. Let me tell you about a man named Jocko Willink, a retired Navy SEAL commander. He wakes up at 4:30 every morning. For decades, people have asked him, "Why do you wake up so early? Isn't that miserable?" His answer is always the same. Discipline equals freedom. By mastering the small choices, getting up, working out, preparing his mind, he gains control over the rest of his life. He doesn't wait for motivation. He doesn't negotiate with comfort. He takes control. That is freedom. And here's where it gets powerful for you. Once you embrace this mindset, discipline stops feeling like a chore. It becomes a gift. You stop asking, "Do I have to?" and start saying, "I get to." You see every disciplined choice as another step toward your freedom, your future, your true self. But I know what you're thinking. How do I make this real? How do I keep this mindset alive when life gets tough? When comfort calls louder than my dreams? Here's how. Anchor your discipline to your vision. If your discipline doesn't have a why, it won't last. Waking up early means nothing unless it's tied to a vision of the healthier, wealthier, wiser you. Saving money feels boring unless it's tied to the vision of financial freedom, of never stressing over bills again. Discipline without vision is drudgery. Discipline with vision is destiny. So pause right now. Imagine the life you want most. See it clearly. Feel it. The places you'll go, the people you'll impact, the peace you'll feel when you look in the mirror and know you didn't settle. Hold on to that vision like it's oxygen, because that's what will keep your discipline unshakable when everything in you wants to quit. And here's another truth. Discipline doesn't have to be massive to be powerful. It just has to be consistent. The tiny choices compound. Reading 10 minutes a day becomes a library of wisdom. Exercising 20 minutes a day becomes a lifetime of strength. Saving a little money each week becomes financial security. The compound effect of discipline will always outpace the sudden bursts of motivation. So when you're tempted to skip, to slack, to give in, remind yourself, this one choice matters. Because it's not just a choice. It's a vote. A vote for the person you're becoming. Now, let me take you deeper. There's a moment, usually about 40% into the effort, when your mind screams at you to stop. Scientists call it the 40% rule. The point where your brain tells you you're done, but in reality, you've got more than half your tank left. That's where discipline steps in. That's where champions are made. The runners who push past the wall. The entrepreneurs who keep building after rejection. The students who study when everyone else has gone to sleep. That's the hidden battle, and discipline wins it every single time. And maybe right now, you're in your own 40% moment. Maybe you've been grinding, pushing, trying, and everything in you says, I can't keep going. Let me tell you, you can. You are stronger than you think. The fact that you're here, listening, proves you're already built for more. Don't let your brain's fear steal your future. Push past the wall. This is where unstoppable discipline lives. Not in the easy moments, but in the hard ones, the ones where most people quit, and you keep moving. That's when your life changes. Now, let me leave you with one final image. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. You're standing in front of a mirror. You look at yourself, your body, your bank account, your career, your relationships, and you know exactly how you got there. Every choice you made stacked up, one by one, until it shaped the life staring back at you. The question is, will that future self thank you or resent you? Discipline decides. Comfort won't. Excuses won't. Luck won't. Discipline will. So don't wait. Don't say tomorrow. Tomorrow is how dreams die. Choose one act of discipline today. Just one. And let it be the seed that grows into everything you've ever wanted. Because the hidden mindset behind unstoppable discipline is simple. Discipline is freedom, and freedom is everything. Now it's your turn. What's the first act of discipline you're going to take today? Is it waking up earlier tomorrow? Is it finally writing that page, making that call, hitting the gym, saving that money? Tell me, because I want to hear it. Share it in the comments, not just for me, but for you, to declare it, to own it, to make it real. And before you go, if this message stirred something in you, if it lit even the smallest fire, don't let it fade. Fuel it. Subscribe to this channel, because this is where we build the mindset of champions together. Like this video if it spoke to you. Share it with someone who needs the push, and leave a comment with your next step of discipline. Because together, we are not just learning discipline. We are becoming unstoppable.